Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tara Institute, TI as we call it. Thanks for coming. Tonight I'm going to say the Refuge prayer. Take refuge. You can listen, you can take refuge, whatever. And then I'll explain refuge, which is a very Buddhist, it sort of delineates the Buddhist, really. Refuge, apart from whole lots of other things, but so I repeat it 3 times. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha. Through the merits that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the highest assembly, through the virtue of the merits that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections, may I attain the state of a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the highest assembly, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections, may I attain the state of a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, so that's, because we're introduction to Buddhism, that's the quintessential sort of thing that really delineates a Buddhist from a non-Buddhist, in a sense. So, because refuge, we have all sorts of refuge. For many, according to Buddhists, for many countless of eons of years, we've been taking refuge in all the wrong things, because those refuges have not provided us with a lasting peace and happiness and control of our mind. So we've taken refuge in all sorts of things. We take refuge in, being in the country, beautiful in the country, in cars, cosmetic surgery, clothes, the gym, sport, all those things we call it taking refuge, but it's really we're thinking that those things will make us happy. But they haven't. None of us have any lasting happiness. Well, there are a few enlightened beings that probably do. So all the things that we've been sort of hoping will give us a lasting happiness, they haven't. And it's always very wise with Buddhist teachings to check up on it as well. Sort of check up, and see, does this apply to me? So all these things, like all these things that we enjoy doing, all these things that give us happiness, they do give us a sort of happiness, but they don't enable us to develop a mind of wisdom, compassion and love. And we all have love, we all have some sort of wisdom, and we all have compassion, definitely. But it's not lasting and it's not universal, and it's not for those we can't stand, really. So our minds are really out of control, according to Buddhists. And we suffer, we're suffering. We're suffering because we want these things, we want to attain things, and then when external circumstances get in the way, we don't know how to handle it. We don't have a mind that can handle all those disturbing things, all the things, the sickness, mental problems, grief, people and family dying and things like that. We really can't handle a lot of that because we haven't been taking, like the proper refuge. So the Buddha, or a Buddha, the Buddha is the Shakyamuni Buddha that you hear about in teachings and things like that. But a Buddha, usually spelt with a small b, is someone with an awakened mind. And so the Buddha, why should we take refuge in a Buddha? I mean, is that going to make any difference, really? the Buddha has an awakened mind. In Tibetan it's called Sangye, which means the Sang is part of the fact that the Buddha is, or a Buddha, there's been countless Buddhas, or millions and I don't know how many counted, but who have attained this awakened state of mind. So it means attaining all the good qualities, all the qualities, the wisdom, the compassion and the love. And that's the part of it. And then the gay part means to have abandoned all the obstructions, all the negativities, all the disturbances in our mind. And so the Buddha, the story of the Buddha you probably all know, he came from a very wealthy family and a kingdom, and gave up, saw suffering, saw, an old person, saw a sick person, saw a disturbed, mentally ill person, and just couldn't handle it, and so decided to go and see why was this. So in the end he became enlightened, the Buddha. So how do we know? Because countless others have followed that path and attained those qualities of omniscience. Apparently a Buddha has omniscience, which means knows everything, like knows absolutely everything. So it is possible to attain a Buddha state of mind. And the way for it is through the path, the path the Buddha went himself. Now a Buddha can't just alleviate one's suffering by taking it out of you or doing some sort of hocus pocus thing. The Buddha, one needs to follow the path that the Buddha went on himself. That's the thing I liked about Buddhism when I was first associating with it. I thought, well, the Buddha was a person like myself. He was an ordinary person, even though he was a prince and that, but, he was ordinary, and he attained all these qualities and got rid of all the negativities. So Buddhists take refuge in the Buddha, because he has a Buddha has the qualities of, he has the ability, the power, the lack of discrimination, and many other qualities in which to help. And if one, they give refuge ceremonies and things. So if one takes refuge, one's basically saying, yes, the Buddha does have these qualities. These are the qualities I would like to attain. And they say that we haven't attained them because we've all got disturbed minds. We're all deluded, and we're all deluded because we don't really understand the nature of phenomena. We think that things are a certain way, but they're not. And so there have been countless people who've followed this path and who've attained, awakened minds. So in the prayer it says, the Buddha, the Dharma. Now the Dharma is the Buddha's, it's the teachings, but it's really the realizations in the mind of the Buddha. They say in the mind of an Arya being, which is an Arya being is a being who's attained through meditation direct insight into the nature of reality, the nature of phenomena. So the Dharma is really the spiritual teachings, that. So we take refuge in the spiritual teachings, the teachings. And then the Sangha, I call them the Sangha, or the highest assembly, they're the teachers. They're the ones who have sort of been on this path, who have attained some realizations. And so it's likened to the Buddha being, as I say, us all being deluded. It's nice to come here and be told you're all deluded, isn't it? So us all being deluded and needing the doctor, the Buddha being the doctor, the Dharma being the medicine, and the Sangha, or the highest assembly, as they call it, being the nurse sort of thing. So it's all very well, well, in a sense, it's like, also I've read that you can't get better by sleeping in a room of medicine, right? You have to take the medicine. So that's sort of talking about, you know, going on the path. And the path is the path of cessation, which means the cessation of suffering. So there's the Four Noble Truths. Alan might have talked about it in the last month, which the Four Noble Truths are the truth of suffering, and the truth of the cause of suffering, and the truth of the cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path. So they're all cause and effect. The effect is the suffering, the cause is mentioned, the cause of suffering, and the effect is the path, and the cause is the cessation. So Buddhists always talk about cause and effect. You know, so there's nothing really that doesn't have a cause. With refuge, it's sort of, I sort of look at it as thinking, well, yes, you know, the Buddha, according to not just himself, according to lots of other people who have, you know, followed the teachings and taken them to heart and given up false refuges. You know, I look at refuge in the Buddha as sort of being like that. It doesn't have to be a, you know, an Eastern religious sort of thing, taking refuge. It's really just taking refuge in that ability to, well, and the Buddha shows that sort of path in the ability to see what causes suffering, to, you know, examine for yourself what causes your own suffering. Do we all know what causes our suffering? No, we don't. I think we just plod along suffering, feeling okay for a while, and then, you know, suffer some more, something happens. And meditation is the way, like, is part of the way. So I thought that I would talk a little bit about meditation, and then we can do a Buddha meditation. We can meditate on the Buddha, seeing as though it is Introduction to Buddhism. Meditation there are many different sort of levels of meditation. Through meditation one can develop very high concentration, and through very focused concentration over years, maybe lifetimes, one can develop great insight and states of mind. Clairvoyance, which the Buddhists say is just not really, you know, that big a deal in terms of what a Buddha can, you know, attain. So with meditation, it's very good to sit with your back, or if, you know, you can't sit with your back straight, mainly so that, I suppose, so that you don't get a crick in your back, or, you know, you don't sort of, mainly just for comfort, I suppose, if it's comfortable. And your arms sort of relaxed, you know, at your side, not close in, not tight, not sort of, yeah, tight. And you can sit in the lotus position. I used to be able to, but whatever's comfortable with the legs crossed. Your neck, your head slightly bent. You can have your head, slightly bent at like a 45-degree angle. Your tongue on your upper palate. And eyes not closed because that might cause sleepiness, but maybe not wide open. And breathing through one's nose too is preferable. So if we think of an image, we think of the Buddha, the classical Buddha, who has the power of love and compassion, wisdom, and the ability to show one how to avoid suffering. And we look at an image of the Buddha. We see it as at our forehead height, and we look at we see that the Buddha is radiant, radiant light. We think of radiant light, golden radiant light. And his expression is one of total love and compassion for all beings. His right hand is in what we call the mudra of touching the earth, and that is because when the Buddha attained enlightenment, someone said to him, I think it was Brahma or one of them, said, how do we know you're enlightened? And he said, well, the earth was my witness when I became enlightened. And the other hand, the left hand, is holding a bowl which contains the medicine, basically, to overcome the suffering. He's wearing robes which don't really cling to the body, they stand out from the body. And he has a top knot of hair. And he's glowing. So we think we see the Buddha, we see white light coming from his crown to our crown, filling us with white light. So we just experience the white light from the Buddha's crown. He's sitting on a lotus, on a lion throne actually, with lions on the four corners, and a lotus, and a sun and a moon cushion, all which symbolise the three stages of the path: renunciation, wisdom, bodhicitta. And the white light from his crown comes down through our crown, filling us with light. And from his throat, red light emanates to our throat, purifying all our problems with speech, clarifying, making our speech pure and Buddha-like. And from the Buddha's heart, blue light shines to our heart, purifying all our problems of body, of having a human body. So white light, red light and blue light streaming for the Buddha, purifying all our difficulties. And then think, request to the Buddha to purify all our negativities, to show us his enlightened activities. And then we think of our family, our female sides of the family on our right, and on our left the males, and in front of us, with the benign light shining, people who we might have had difficulty with. So they're receiving the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. And behind us and around us, all sentient beings. So we think, may we become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. May we develop compassion, true compassion, for the benefit of every single sentient being. Maybe we develop universal love for the benefit of all sentient beings. True love. In our hearts. And may we develop the penetrative wisdom of a Buddha for the benefit of all beings. May all beings abide in happiness with no suffering, and may they attain the wisdom knowledge. The Buddha accepts our request and smiles lovingly at us. And we receive the blessings, and so do all sentient beings. And then the Buddha dissolves into light. The throne into the lotus, and the lotus into the moon and sun discs, and then the Buddha into light and comes to our crown. And dissolves into us, and we become one with the Buddha. And we can say the mantra is Om Muni Muni Maha Muniye Soha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muniye Soha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muniye Soha. Then we can come out of that, back to the room. If we're still awake. So as I say, that's a quintessential Buddhist thing, the taking refuge in the Buddha. And one can go to a refuge ceremony with a Lama who's qualified to bestow refuge or grant refuge. And then one's sort of suggested to follow the 10 non-virtuous, the 10 virtuous actions, not non-virtuous, the 10 virtuous actions, and to be kind and help people, you know, to give food or, you know, help to people as much as one can. And to try and follow the 10 virtuous actions, which Alan probably went over, I suppose, which are 3 of the body, the virtuous actions of the body, which is not killing, not stealing, and no sexual misconduct, they call it. I think that sort of means sexual activity that's going to hurt someone else. And then there's 4 of the speech, you know, not to lie and not to have harsh speech and not to gossip too much and not to have wrong views, sort of, like negative. And then of the mind is to, actually of the mind is not to have wrong views, like not to be denying, Buddhist things. Like if you're taking refuge, not to sort of deny and say, oh, that doesn't happen, there's no such thing as karma or reincarnation, which is very easy to, a lot of people, friends of mine, they all don't say they believe in reincarnation. So that's wrong views, they call them, doubt, about the ability of the Buddha, even though it's quite logical, that other people have followed the path and they've attained higher states of mind, or, they've attained supreme compassion, concentration. So I thought I would also talk about another basic thing that Buddhists talk about is the mind. So a mind is distinct from the body. The body is, flesh and it dies and, it's a physical thing, the body. It's physical. But the mind in Buddhism, well, according to Buddhists, their definition of it is that it's clear and knowing. It's energy. It has the ability to know. It has the mind. Has clarity, and mind has the ability to know and perceive things. It's synonymous with consciousness, mind, and the mind it's beginningless. It's beginning. There's no beginning. And I was saying this to a friend of mine who's a monk, and he said, well, that's easy to understand. I said, well, it's a bit hard, I think. And he said, well, it's because, the previous mind this present moment of mind comes from the previous moment, and the previous moment of that mind comes from the previous moment of that, and so on. And so it goes. And so it goes, our mind from now, is a product of the previous moment, and that previous moment is a product of its previous moment, going right back to in the womb. And so then even before that. So that's one way they say about reincarnation. And that mind, so that mind has had many lives, many incarnations. And we've all been all sorts of things many times over. So then someone might say, no, that I don't know about that. But then if you look at the logical sort of alternative, is to say, well, no, it must have had a beginning. So then you get into all sorts of difficulties, like logical difficulties, sort of, okay, when was that beginning? And then that also means that, there must have been a creator. So Buddhists don't talk about creators, a creator. They don't talk about a creator. So there must have been a creator if it came, that's one possibility. Or something happened without a cause. So that's not logical either. Something just didn't, happen like that. So the whole concept of beginningless mind. So anyway, so the mind has awareness and clarity, and so but our mind is disturbed. Our minds, all of our minds, except if we've really worked on them and got rid of all the, all the negativities and all that, and the thoughts, our thoughts are sort of they're part of the mind, they're part of the nature of the mind, but they come and go, obviously, we know that. We have thoughts that upset us, or we might have had an argument with someone a long time ago, and can we remember half the time? Can we remember what that was about? Because the thoughts sort of arise and then go and subside within the mind. But we never really, have any, we don't have any control over our mind. Our mind has control over us. Our thoughts control us. We're under the power of our thoughts, of our negative thoughts, of our attachment and of our anger, and of our, our mind. Whereas what we're trying to do is to control our mind. So, you can't control everything out there. You just can't. There's all sorts of terrible things out there that happen. But you can't control it. We got no control. We do have control in the sense with, we can be kind to someone, we can help someone, we can decide not to be annoying or, not to give people a hard time. But basically, we can't control things, so we need to control our mind. We need to get rid of things that disturb us. And that's the Buddhist path has succeeded in doing that. So, the mind is very clear. And also it's likened to like a pane of glass. If you shine a light, a yellow light through it, you can't really see the glass. You perceive the light, the colour. And so we perceive these things that are in our mind, but the clarity of the mind is obscured, just like the pane of glass is obscured by the light. So I thought that, as I say, that the aim is to really get to, to sort of being able to control what goes on in our mind. To be able to sort of see how thoughts arise, and to see how what we do is we grasp onto them. We do this, they call it this, we grasp onto thoughts and ideas, and we and then we act out and we act on them. But the aim through meditation is to experience, the mind as sort of clear, and of knowing, of having this clarity and this continuity, because we can see that, the mind, we've had the mind since we were a child, and even before that, our mind has this continuity. So we can do some more meditation on the clarity of the mind. We'll do a bit of breathing meditation first. So the breathing meditation is like we're breathing all the time, obviously. That's why you're here. So we're breathing, and it's neutral. The breath is sort of neutral. So it's it's a sort of an easy meditation to do, and it's good to, if one feels upset or anything, or one feels, like annoyed at anything, or it's really good to just go and try and make the time to do some breathing meditation. It's also really good to do it regularly, like to each day to do some meditation. So you get into the habit, otherwise you forget and you don't do it. It's hard to do it every day, I think. I only really do it because I've done the odd initiation, which is where you're initiated into a practice, and so I have to do it under pain of death. Like, really, the lamas are like, you better keep doing this. You have a commitment to do it. And so that sort of forces one, not that I meditate really, I go through what they call the sadhana, or the practice. But it's because if you don't, you forget. You just forget, it drops off. So, But if you have some sort of commitment, you can make your own commitment, to do it. Often best, they say, early in the morning, just 5 minutes, and then building up. It's good for one, really good the beginning of the day, even at night. So we'll start with a bit of breathing meditation, and then we can just try and experience the clarity of the mind. We can sort of try and experience the mind as being clear. Often when one's meditating, one is using one part of the mind to sort of analyse or look at the other part. It's not easy at first. It's not easy after a long time, really, but well worth it. So we can do some breathing meditation now. So in the posture, in the right, if one gets in the right position. Breathing through one's nose. And usually it's good to have a sort of motivation, we call motivation. The motivation is the ultimate motivation is to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. That's the ultimate Buddhist motivation. I'm doing this because I want to develop my mind so that I can get rid of all negativities and develop all the qualities that I need in order to be able to one day benefit all sentient beings. And by attempting to do some sort of meditate so that my mind's not too out of control, this is my motivation. You don't have to have as high a motivation. You can just think, I'm just going to try and just give myself a break from all the thoughts that arise. And so I'm just going to focus on my breathing. So just focusing on a lot of meditation. Some meditations are led and some are not. Some you just follow the instructions. If thoughts arise, don't grapple with them or anything, just think, that's a thought, or don't even think, just, it'll come and go like the clouds in a clear sky. And just, you can see the breath as, or experience the breath as some sort of force, some sort of energy, or you can focus on that. Focus on the air going in and out of your nostrils. And now bring your focus to the clarity of your mind. If thoughts arise, just think that they are clear without any substance. Experience the mind as like clear, empty space. And then back to your breathing, focus on the breath for a few breaths. And then we dedicate what we say, we dedicate the merits of trying to develop a clean, clear mind, free of distractions, for the benefit of all beings. And then we can come back into the room. So, can anyone see the benefits of that? Doing that? No? Any comments, any questions, any queries? No, you're meant to have all been meditating, not thinking about those things, I suppose. As I say, I recommend you do whatever suits you, like, it doesn't have to be Buddhist thing. Like the teachings, the most popular teacher, Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa, they didn't sort of, say it had to be Buddhist or ceremonial or anything. It's really about attaining love and compassion and happiness, really. The whole thing. It's all focused on that. It's all focused to bring us to be happier. Not the happiness of eating lots of chocolate or, drinking lots of wine or that sort of happiness. The non-lasting happiness, but it's all focused on, attaining and having better relations with people, especially with family. No questions? Ingrid? So next week I've got... Well, next week, that's Easter Monday, isn't it? Oh, yeah. In the other weeks I might talk about anger. If there's anything you would like me to discuss any other times, I'm happy to, within my ability. So I thought I might talk about attachment and anger. The Buddhists really talk about that. And bodhicitta. I remember when I did my first meditation course way back, the Lama was talking about bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the awakened mind. That's the mind that is awakened for the benefit of all beings' sake. If one has bodhicitta, one has absolutely no problems at all, apparently. I wouldn't know, but... So bodhicitta, and I was taking notes, and I thought it was body, B-O-D-Y, citta, C-H-E-A-T-E-R. So I had this in my notes, this bodhicitta. I think I've still got them. So yes, big teaching on that. So anyway, if there's no questions or comments or anything, everyone's wide awake, are they? So I think there's a cup of tea out there in the dining room if one wants to help yourself. I don't think we make cakes anymore, do we? No? Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming.
So is it on next Monday?
Yes, I'll be here on Monday, yeah. There's an Easter course that Geshe Lobsang is doing. He's doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't think they're doing the Easter course on Monday. But yes, I'll be here. I'll be here for the April. Yeah, the 4 Mondays. I don't know how many people will be turning up next Monday, but they might be, in lots of traffic, getting back from camping. That's what you do at Easter, isn't it? in the mud. Thank you.